So why a lot of DeFi projects are building on Polkadot is because it's going to give it that interoperability to obviously speak to both the main layers of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and to have that ability, it gives and obviously it gives you tons of market share potential, and obviously since it's built on this what they call WebAssembly, and it's built in C++, Rust, Go. It gives the ability. There's so many people to build on it, and that's the reason why so many people are starting to get why it's like, okay, maybe I should have a couple dot. But again, it's one of those things. I tell people, layer 2 solutions of Ethereum can fix this as well, but it doesn't have the ability to talk to both chains that Polkadot does.
Right, and that's the beauty of what
makes it unique. Yeah, it's what makes it unique. And again, the languages that you can build on gives it, again, potential to have many millions of developers build on it. And what kind of things they're going to build, no one can really.
Well, I mean, if Uniswap was any indication of what's to come, and obviously past performances is not indicative of future results, we all know that. But nonetheless, I would think that the future's pretty bright. Those folks are going to be wearing some shades over there at QuickSwap.
Again, there's lots of projects that's going to be built on DeFi projects built on Polkadot. Yeah. Who's going to be the big winner? I don't know, but I don't know who's going to be like the Uniswap or the Sushi swap of Polkadot. But we know a lot of the money is lining up. You get the F7 out of Dubai. They bought a huge position in Polkadot and Cardano because they see the value of cryptocurrency. Again, you look at that picture I posted up on Twitter not even like half an hour ago. You see the total assets held by central banks globally. It's close to $30 trillion. That's very alarming to me. So I'm going to keep stacking sats and buying Litecoin, buying Ethereum and others because I just see cryptocurrencies. It's obviously, in my opinion, my humble opinion, not financial advice,
right?
A safer bet right now, especially when you look at all the money they're printing right now, and we don't account for it. We just keep printing more and printing more, and at some point, again, $30 trillion on the balance sheet is kind of scary.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, from our conversations in the past with the team here at Quantum Economics, the only person or entity really buying this U.S. debt is none other than the Federal Reserve. It's not China. It's not Russia. We're not seeing any other countries around the world rushing to go, ooh, hey, let me buy some U.S. debt.
2%. Again, if you look, I haven't looked at any of those numbers in probably like 6 months to a year, but when you look at those numbers of U.S. securities and who is buying, I've stated for a long time, one of the biggest positions is the Cayman Islands, and that always sent off a red flag for me. And they're still one of the bigger holders of U.S. debt out there, and now it's the Fed and Cayman Islands is in that top like 10 list, and obviously there's still Japan and there's still Germany. And China and Russia still are hodlers, but they've been, if you look at a chart, of their positions, they've slowly been decreasing over time, big time. And again, that's also due to their unilateral decision a few years ago in 2019 at their economic conference that they hold every year in St. Petersburg, where they decided to unilaterally stop using USD for capital goods purchases. So
settlement for oil. I mean, their whole thing is what they have
that's correct.
Called BRICS, right? Yeah, Brazil, Russia, China, India, and South America.
Yeah, those are all
Africa. Yeah.
Those are all the $1 billion economies,
right.
But it was unilateral deal between China and Russia. But again, when we talk capital goods, people throw that word around a lot and don't know what it means. That means gold. That means oil. That means steel. That means aluminum, bauxite, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and on. So when they say they're going to stop using U.S. dollars for, some of the biggest financial sectors in the world, that puts a big, huge hole, vortex into USD's ecosystem. And that's what we're starting to see.
Why you see the folks at Citibank just last month coming out saying that, Bitcoin is probably reaching the tipping point of becoming a tool for international settlement, because nobody's wanting to settle in dollars because the value has been eroded and continues to be eaten away.
Well, and again, people want to say, Bitcoin's slow compared to what? Compared to like maybe Litecoin or Dogecoin, yeah, it's slow. However, Bitcoin compared to the Swiss system and fiat money is very, very, very fast and very, very way more efficient. And that's what people are starting to.
The Swift wire system, if I wanted to Swift somebody some money to Argentina, it's going to take a couple days and the fees are going to be crazy.
Yeah, it might even take you, if you're sending it to Argentina, it'll probably take you like 21 days is my guess.
Yeah.
Probably like if you know people in tech and you know the right banks and the correct banks that run in more real-time systems, maybe like 7 days.
So actually it might be faster if I bought a plane ticket and just took the money with me and flew it down there.
Correct.
Yeah.
No lie. Yeah. And this is what people start to realize when you study money, is that fiat ecosystem has lots and lots and lots of friction.
All right, Joe, I want you to school me and folks out here, because I think the biggest problem is a lot of people do not understand how money is created by central banks. Walk us through that.
So with the ECB, and they're the ones that first started doing this, they literally just hit a button. They hit a button and they create money. Click. And that's not a lot. The Federal Reserve does it a little bit differently, but over the last couple of years, they've been applying the money button a little too much. And every year and every day, they're supposed to destroy a certain amount of those funds to keep, the balance of the dollar within a certain range. And then obviously they use certain tools like interest rates, and they use the Philly fund rate, the Philadelphia fund rate, and the federal fund rate. And these rates are what the federal banking systems use. And now, again, we're talking about 1.6% or 2.0%, like rattling the gates of Wall Street because of 2%. To me, this is ridiculous. But that's where we're at. And again, over the last year alone, they printed somewhere between $3 to $4 trillion.
What was the statistic that the majority of the dollars in circulation were printed within the last year? Or was it? Did I get that correctly?
And that's probably correct. And that's the thing, is we're at a point where as we keep printing more and more, you're just inflating the equities markets as well, and the securities market. And that's why we're seeing the spike in the long-term bond rate. And again, as we see the spike in the long-term rates of like close to 2%, then what happens to these emerging market currencies who owe tons of money to the Fed? What happens to them? Well, then their value of their currency goes, and then they have to pay us more money. And then they start to have problems with their money, because now it's the opposite, right? The dollar's inflating, their currency's deflating at this point. And guess what? Oh, now you're having a Zimbabwe moment, and you have $1 trillion.
But let me ask you this, if I'm not mistaken, because I know I'm a crypto idiot. That's why I'm blessed to be on the team here at Quantum Economics. But the U.S. government issues treasury bills, and then I believe the Federal Reserve takes those, and then they give the government dollars back. So the Federal Reserve is printing dollars out of nothing.
Yeah.
They just make up dollars and give them to the government then.
Well, again, like you were saying earlier, more and more countries, like over the 80s and 90s, they would buy our debt. And there's, different levels of our debt. There's short-term, mid-term, long-term debt. And again, in the 80s and 90s, it was way higher yield. It'd be 10, 15, maybe even closer to 20% yield, especially on these long-term bonds. And that's something, if you're somebody who likes to keep your money safe and still have a very high yield, bonds were the way to go. And as we've printed more money and we've devalued our currency more, well, then those assets look less and less and less attractive. And now that's what like you said, now who's buying the majority of these assets?
The Fed.
The Federal Reserve. And that's what's going on with all the Feds globally. And they're not just buying their own debt, they're buying other countries' debt, which they used to do, but now they're buying stocks. That's the scary shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have the bank, the Federal Reserve banks, the ECB, they're buying Apple, and you like,
Yeah.
that's scary to me. You know what I mean? Like, especially because it's paper, right? Again, they can always print more of it. With Bitcoin, that's the exact opposite, and that's what people don't get. Like, Tesla just did what did they do? A triple split a couple months back? Like, I forget what they did on their stock, but right, it went from like 1,000. They're like, okay, it's too expensive. We have to print more. And like people were like, yeah, this is a good thing. I'm like, no, that's not a good thing. And then eventually went and got kind of tamed back down, and now it's going crazy again. With way more paper out there. And again, I think Tesla's business model is good, but when you keep printing more and more of these securities, again, it's alarming to me, because if you're doing so well, why are we in Series G funding, Robinhood, right? You're doing so great. Why are you Series D funding this company?
Yeah, exactly.
You're doing so great. Why are you raising hundreds of millions of more dollars? You're doing so awesome. And again, in many cases, these companies are expanding, and I get that. But in certain cases, like Robinhood, and I'm using them as the main example. You're supposed to be bringing in billions of dollars in profit monthly, but we're at Series G funding level. Okay, sure.
What's next? Whatever. Series AA?
Yeah, or are we at Series Z funding? So we're here for Series Z funding, and yes, you'll get back 1.92%. Oh, awesome. Great.
Jeez. So I think that's the problem with like traditional finance, and a lot of the folks who've grown up, maybe even older than us, have gone through the 80s and 90s when bond markets and bond yields was the thing. Look, that made my grandma a millionaire. I'm not going to lie. And back then that was great. When we were watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Different Strokes and Reagan was president. But here we are in a digital economy, in a global world where things move faster and money should move like email.
And yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's why we have to have digital dollar, the crypto dollar more specifically. And it's important. If we're trying to pull these kinds of things like the Bank of Japan has been doing, where they are going to just keep printing yen to infinity, which it seems like the Federal Reserve wants to do.
Well, you saw Neil Kashkari last year on 60 Minutes.
Yeah, we will keep printing money. Yeah, pull out the money gun.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with that one. I got my Neil Kashkari gun.
Yeah. And again, that's what they do every time they think that it's going to help. And it does help with certain things. But at some point, it catches up with you, right? Yeah, I tell people, if you keep digging a hole, the hole keeps getting deeper. You're going to hit the center of the earth at some point, and that's when it's bad news.
Well, unless you plan on going to China, then
Yeah, exactly. You're trying to do some Tesla, the boring company.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
Tunnels. Yeah. Like, does anyone not realize that he's building these tunnels on Earth just to practice for Mars? Like, is anyone pointing that out? I think not, but that's just me. That's what I think he's doing. Just my theory, just throwing it out there. Just practice for building all these huge tunnels on the big cities that he wants to build on Mars. And I always I've said this many times to Elon on Twitter and other places. Hey man, I can help you terraform Mars without using radiological materials. That's a win for everyone.
That's a big win.
Oh yeah.
Anything market wise in the week that you're looking at coming up?
Again, I'm looking at Bitcoin mining companies, because with that news that I heard that Bitmain ran out of their new ASICs because of the Chinese New Year, my theory that the mining power is about to go nuts is spot on.
Mining power going down, you mean, or mining power going up?
No, mining power going up. That's what it's been doing. It hit almost a new
the raw
all-time
hash
high.
power has been,
the raw hash power has almost hit a new all-time high. It's only maybe a few weeks before we hit like this crazy new number of probably like 180 exahashes a second, or maybe 200, and that's
what is that
levels of power. So if it gets 200, it's 200 quintillion calculations a second. So That's like, again, it's like a mega force field of power protecting trillions of dollars of capital. And again, that's the main difference between crypto economics and traditional economics. Fully collateralized, mostly like almost 100% collateralized positions, 10% collateralized position. That's huge. Learn some numbers, you macro people.
Macroeconomics. When people look at macroeconomics, what's the biggest misconception?
That these cryptos have no value. And again, when there's options and futures and you can buy things, goods and services, property, Bitcoin literally is the only thing that can buy everything. And there's certain things only Bitcoin can buy, right? Like if you go out there and you're into crypto, you go to somebody's crypto apparel site and they just take Bitcoin, right? You go to, you're looking to go buy like a trading bot, like Gunbot. Well, that guy, yeah, I think he takes Visa and MasterCard too, but he prefers Bitcoin, right? Like,
right. But the non-coiners though, the non-coiners out here on Facebook that love to troll me are going to be like, oh, but you can't use your Bitcoin to buy your house. You can't use your Bitcoin to buy your groceries. You know the FUD.
Oh yeah, you can do all those things. Again, the fact that people still think you can't do those things, you haven't been paying attention. People do that all the time. There's that guy, the Bitcoin family, right?
Yeah, Didio.
Yeah,
no.
Just lives off Bitcoin all the time. So I mean, it can be done. Obviously, it's more complicated in certain countries than other countries.
Sure.
And you know, I stated this myself recently. You know, if the U.S. doesn't get their ass in gear and figure out some reasonable regulation, oh Canada, I'm just saying, man, because they've got 3 ETFs. They obviously are getting it right. I'm pretty sure they've had more meetings with Antonopoulos than most countries' governments have. If you don't know that shit, you shouldn't be saying you're in crypto.
Yeah. The thing that got me excited was the guy in France, the representative or the politician in France, putting the motion forward that the Central Bank of France should now start to hold and acquire Bitcoin.
Yeah, and there again, he was not just one guy. It was a faction of politicians,
and citizens in France can actually go and sign on to this online petition for this.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's be very clear. When it comes to financial technology, fintechnology, France has always been a leader in the space. I heard there was, I was watching Twitter or something months back, and they kind of made fun of France for their new policies and regulations. And basically, I was saying, like, they're the ones that came up with magnetic strips on debit cards.
Yeah, that's right.
And people, and if they have a group of politicians that are interested in, hodling Bitcoin at the Federal Reserve level, they're serious about it, and they get it, they understand it. Their regulations are some of the most advanced and progressive regulations when it comes to cryptocurrency.
And you've spoken about this for a long time. As long as I've known you, you've
always
brought up the regulation in France as a possible template that other countries, including the U.S., could possibly follow.
Exactly. So their law is very, very smart. So yes, there's capital gains tax if you cash it back out in the fiat. However, if it stays in crypto, if it stays liquid in crypto, whether it's stable coins or some of the tier one or the precious metal cryptos like Bitcoin and like Ethereum, if it stays in token or coin form, it's a non-taxable event, and that's the way it should be, and that's the way it is in France right now. And that's why a lot of fintech companies have moved to France, because they're especially trading and bot trading. When I told you the other day, you're going to tax every time these bots do these arbitrages. In some cases, they do like 1,000 arbitrages a day. These little, and you're talking like 1,000 sales at 46 cents. Like so you're going to take like a millionth of a penny off of 46 cents 1,000 times a day. Like, you got to have some really good blockchain program to do that shit, and good luck with that. You can't even figure out how Monero works. So, and good, again, keep wasting money on that shit, because you're just going to waste money. But I said that's what would happen. And CipherTrace saying that they can figure it out. Yeah, you can narrow it down, but you're not figuring out what's going on here. You're basically you could build like, it would be like a filter, right? So CipherTrace could make a filter and filter out all the bullshit addresses that are around it, and then they could tell you which is probably the correct address, but
There's no certainty.
There's no certainty that they could tell you who the sender is or the receiver is. They could just tell you that this is the address, and they could maybe put it into a block explorer and tell you if there's money in that wallet. But I don't necessarily know if CipherTrace could tell you, like, again, who the sender and the receiver is. That's a whole nother ball of wax in my opinion.
Is Taproot going to make Bitcoin that much better, faster, and more secure?
I get, my research on Taproot is minimal, but from what I heard, obviously it's going to be able to, make people be able to build easier onto Bitcoin, and give it some more, I would say, scalability and more privacy, because obviously it's pseudo anonymous. It's not 100% anonymous, as some people always, have the misconception of Bitcoin. And the other big misconception is, it's trackable versus traceable. There's a big difference between traceable and trackable, and people always confuse that with Bitcoin. You can trace one transaction to another address. You can't tell where that person is in the world. That's a totally different thing. And when people say that, I'm like, you clearly don't get how technology works, so please just stop talking. And it's very true. Like, I mean, let's be clear. You can say this money went from here to here, and you can say how much is on the blockchain, but you can't say that this person's in, Gibraltar and this person's in,
or Seattle,
Zimbabwe,
or Kent,
or Seattle.
Yeah.
You could, if you're using like Coinbase, and then all those transactions have meta tag data in the background.
Yeah. Well, that's why we don't. That's why we don't do business with Brian.
Yeah, and Brian,
Sorry, Brian.
Again. This is why we love the user experience and user interface of Coinbase. But I know they've been trying to protect our information, but as they get bigger and the government starts looking in their direction more, they have to be more compliant with data. And I get that. But at the same time,
anytime you move,
if Gary Gensler is appointed,
if you move any crypto off of Coinbase, they file that as a taxable event, because they don't know where you're sending that money. They file that. So anytime you buy crypto and you move it,
and again, I think that's all going to change. Obviously, the United States is trying to come up with regulation that is way more reasonable when it comes to crypto assets. And obviously, if Gary Gensler is appointed, I see nothing but just because he's literally like it would, like, the only other person I could think of appointing would be like Antonopoulos. Like, okay,
dude, it's so bullish for crypto, dude. If you don't,
crypto's going to zero.
Good luck with that.
Antonopoulos is the head of SEC. That's kind of like where we're at right now, is that somebody from MIT is about to run our money, and that's kind of what you want when if we're talking about a crypto future.
Do you get offended by the "have fun, stay poor" meme?
No.
Why? Do you think it's fair?
Because, again, if people want to not learn how money works, and that's, again, rich people don't want you to know how, like, one percenters, real one percenters, they don't want you to know how money works. Crypto people will buy some Bitcoin. I'll help you. You don't want to learn? Yeah, have fun staying poor. We're not trying to block you from entry. Like, Wall Street does that. We don't do that. And again, that's a huge difference where, you have to have big boy money to play in Wall Street. You don't have to have big boy money to play on the block market. You can invest a couple $100 into Bitcoin. You can invest a couple 100,000 if you want. It's your choice. That's the beauty of the block market, is it's 24/7 market. It's open all the time. You want to learn it? Go right ahead. There's going to be literally trillions of dollars of capital coming into the block market over the next 5 years. These are just facts. Look at Beeple. Beeple, $70 million, just went from being, and he's been doing very well. Beeple's been selling his art for the last couple of years on the blockchain. But now that Ethereum's up at, almost $2,000 again, some of his pieces are worth a lot more. And the same thing with, the punks pieces, etc. The value keeps going up because Ethereum keeps going up. And, that guy went from being a very successful digital artist to becoming, almost, I would think, he's close to 100 millionaire right now in one day. And he's, in his 30s or 40s. He's not dead like Monet or Manet, and he can enjoy some of the spoils of his hard-earned labor and efforts. And I think that's one of the great things. And one of the best things about NFTs is quality degradation, right? Your comic book, you can bend a corner on that comic book. Okay, there goes 10K in value like that. Never going to happen with an NFT. If you're like a gaming company like Magic, counterfeit cards cost them millions of dollars on a yearly basis. Pokemon, same kind of thing. You put these things on the blockchain, literally, we're talking about saving those companies millions of dollars.
This is fun, and that's one end of the NFT spectrum, as I like to call it. I think that's the fun end, and I think there's a lot more risk there and a lot more more potential for scams. But what I like the idea of when you go down the NFT rabbit hole is what it means for contracts, what it means for personal identity, for voting. I mean, even like on social media, we see, oh, I've got a blue check, or I don't have, you know what? If my social media profile can be turned into an NFT done through like dot where it's cross chain. So no matter what social media platform I go to, it's me. So you don't have any doubt about it.
That's one of the things that I always make fun is that those people always want to make fun of saying like, oh, I can make a copy of this. Ha ha ha. Now I made an NFT. Dude, you're saying this when there's like 35 people making fake accounts of you online and scamming people out of money. And if we just put your picture in the blockchain, guess what? It shuts that down literally almost to zero. So these people fighting this you're just silly. That's all.
The other thing
you're fighting the future.
I think that other blockchain networks are going to be coming. They already are coming to the party on NFTs, and that could be some competition to Ethereum, especially when we look at fees.
Yeah. Honestly, again, people keep bringing up the fees argument. If the fees argument was a problem, then again, why do people just sell a piece for $70 million?
Well, see, I think it's, again, here's the thing though. I would submit this to you that the ETH crowd, again, you have to, that's the big boy money. I mean, there's some people with money there. Okay. We're not talking about the folks who go to Walmart. Okay. Those folks who go to Walmart don't even know what that is. Right. So the ETH crowd, again, those people get money. So we're talking about a different audience and a clientele here.
Oh yeah. And again, I think that Wax is the next biggest player in the space because they're taking EOSIO and, they already have deals with Tops and Garbage Pail Kids and, all these other card companies. Like I said, it's only a matter of days before Magic the Gathering or Pokemon picks one of these companies. And when they do, that cryptocurrency is going to go to the moon times 1,000. Like, no doubt about it in my mind. Because Magic the Gathering is one of the biggest, card gaming companies in the world, and so is Pokemon. They're like, it's like Coke and Pepsi of card gaming. And as soon as one of them picks a blockchain, and they might pick Wax, they might pick ETH. I don't know who they're going to pick, but whenever they make that call, that crypto is going nuts. Period. But yes, fees are pushing people into other directions. But Ethereum still has 1.5 million contracts.
Oh yeah. Look, I get that, and it's like the analogy that we talked about with Matty a couple of weeks ago, the nightclub, right? Well, it might be a shitty nightclub, but everybody's there, and that's where it's at.
All the cool people's there,
so that's where we're at. Let me ask you this: something that was brought up the other day. I was speaking with a colleague of mine about the amount of talent and the brain suck, if you will, from traditional areas of finance, technology, et cetera, into the blockchain and crypto world. Can you at least elaborate from your perspective and what you know, the amount of talent that is being and has been attracted into the space? And is it still at that high level, or have we seen a bit of a pullback?
I think it's been going on since 2018, and we're going to continue to see it. I think crypto companies need to take a step back themselves, realize a lot of these people have no idea what they're talking about. Be careful. And start looking to, some of these influencers like yourself who...
I'm not an influencer. I'm under the influence. I'm definitely under the influence, though.
You're like, not financial advice. But you know what I mean? Some of these people that are in this space, I trust way more than I would somebody from JP Morgan because They know how to make a wallet, right? They know how to like move Bitcoin around or, actually use cryptocurrency. Some of these people talk all this shit and then I see them online asking for help, like how to use Ethereum. Like, I'm not going to say any names, but I see people post up pictures like, how do I fix my ETH wallet? I'm like, yeah. And we were supposed to listen to you? No, thank you. But again, are you going to trust, again, do I think some of these people on Wall Street know what they're talking about when it comes to cryptocurrency? Heck yeah, of course. Do I think all of them do? No. So I would just look to more to the space, because some of these people, are managing some money. Some of these people are bullshit artists, and you kind of got to sift through and figure out who is who. And we said that before, it's just like any other space out there. There's all these scammers in the Forex market. There's all these spammers and scammers with emails and the Nigerian princes and all that stuff. The same thing is going to be in crypto. There's going to be all these scammers.
Well, a piece of good news, and I got this right here. I'm glad that you brought that up. A piece of good news right here. I got an email actually from that Nigerian prince, and he's not looking for us to help him anymore. He's got Bitcoin now in Nigeria because apparently it's gone through the roof, and they're not asking for money anymore. They've got Bitcoin in Nigeria. Nigerian
they're
prince
like,
is set.
They're like, we don't want gold. They're like, give us Bitcoin.
Yeah. So good news about that. I saved that email.
Everyone, again, a lot of people on the team all agree with that point, right? People think that since criminals want Bitcoin is a bad thing. No, it gives actually more legitimacy to cryptocurrencies because they see it as a usable medium of exchange, clearly. And again, it's just one of these things. It's easy to do business. If you've ever done a transaction in Bitcoin or Litecoin or any one of these decentralized cryptocurrencies and had a problem with Swift or had a problem with transferring money, right? My biggest story is, I always tell the story, is I transferred $400 from one US bank to another US bank. Guess how long it took? 2 weeks.
It was from one bank down the block to the next. I could have just taken the money and blocked it there.
Exactly. Seriously, dude. But it was all done digitally, so I couldn't do that. So it had to be done, the transfer through the app, and it took 14 days. Guess what? I can move thousands of dollars in seconds with Bitcoin and Litecoin and Ethereum. Seconds, not 14 days. And these are the kind of things that once people figure out, they start to like it because it's empowering.
Well, and that's why banks and institutions and whatnot are against it, because it takes away their revenue streams. You're looking at these fees and you're looking at all this stuff, and like it creates less friction.
Until they start doing what like France and Switzerland are doing, which is learning how to mine and learning. Maybe our Federal Reserve Bank should hodl this shit. Correct. And once you do, then your ecosystems open up to the Bitcoin's ecosystem, and then you make money. Surprise! Ding, 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 ding. You're in the system. One of us.
Yeah.
And that's
who
people
was that?
Don't get.
I think was that Scaramucci? Anthony Scaramucci, was it the Mooch? He was saying that I guess he heard or he knew from good sources that Mnuchin, his agenda was to kill Bitcoin. That he had quietly, like behind the scenes, Steve Mnuchin, while in office, killed Bitcoin.
2018. They try, but again, that's why now banks are talking about hodling Bitcoin, and there are some banks that do hodl Bitcoin, and insurance companies, and Tesla, and Michael Saylor and team, and MicroStrategy, and a t-shirt company in Philadelphia. And again, it's not going to be this domino effect. It's going to be this chain reaction, and you don't want to be staring at the mushroom cloud. You want to be in the rocket ship
going up,
the mushroom cloud.
Yeah.